Welcome back to another episode of Instigating with Clarkey and Drury. I'm Ryan Drury. Clarkey will join us later, and he'll be joined by the voice of the AHL Calder Cup champion Toronto Marlies, Todd Crocker, to discuss that incredible run, the second Calder Cup championship in Marlies history. But before we do that, huge news, hugely busy week in the National Hockey League across a number of different fronts, and this is one of our favorite guys to have on when we want to get in depth with what's going on in the NHL. You know him from the NHL Network and a bunch of other stuff, including broadcasting college hockey. Jonny Lazarus. Laz, how you doing, brother?
What's up, Ryan? It is busy, which is crazy that we're not even at the draft yet, and you got all this crap happening.
And we're going to talk about that because you're going to be a busy man at the draft, which we'll touch on. But speaking of the draft, obviously Ottawa's got some draft capital to play with now that they didn't have before. This is the big one, obviously. Brady Tkachuk joining his brother in Florida. Ottawa getting the 9th overall and 25th overall picks this year, a conditional 2029 first-round pick, and a 2027 second from the Panthers. I'll ask you flat out, straight up, do you think the Senators got fair value for their captain?
I would have liked a rostered player, anyone in that matter, because again, the Ottawa Senators right now, all they're interested is, not being worse than they were yesterday, right? Or worse than they are today or something like that. They don't want to go backwards. They want to go forwards. So now they have a huge spot in their lineup to fill, which I think they will take those picks and do that. But, whenever you look at a trade, I guess you do have to be patient and see what the team who, quote unquote, loses that trade's next move is. So I guess until we see what Ottawa does with those picks, then maybe they didn't lose the trade yet. But anytime you lose your captain, you lose a huge piece of the franchise. It's hard to say that team wins a trade, right? It's just hard.
Now, obviously, Ottawa as well, they own the 32nd overall pick, but they can't trade that. That's the pick that they were given back for that whole Yevgeny Dadonov scenario. So they're not actually allowed to trade that pick. So maybe they use all three picks. I highly doubt they do that. I think that they're going to take this draft capital and flip it. Lots of rumors around Jason Robertson. I don't know if he'd necessarily want to come to Ottawa. We'll see how that situation shakes out in Dallas. I'm curious about and I saw clips of you talking about this on Instagram and Twitter, and Johnny's a great follow, by the way. If you're an NHL fan, you got to follow this dude. I saw you talking a little bit about the situation, kind of where people were comparing it to the John Tavares situation. Not exactly super similar here, but you guys were talking a lot about the no move clause. Is this becoming a huge problem, in your opinion, in the NHL, the advent of no movement clauses?
I mean, I think if players are using it correctly for their own sake, then yeah. If, the example I've been using all day today now is, if I'm Kirill Kaprizov and I'm with Minnesota, and 4 years from now, 4 years into a $17 million deal per year for 8 years, and I decide, hey, you know what? We lost Quinn Hughes. We haven't gotten it done. I want to go play for Tampa or Vegas. And I go to Billy Guerin and say that. What is Billy Guerin supposed to do? His hands are pretty much tied, right? If you have a guy who can control where he can go because of this trade protection, which again, it's supposed to be protection. The leverage to me, and I know leverage has been a huge word in this conversation. The leverage is that they can say no to any trade that the GM wants. If you are offered to be sent to Winnipeg and you don't want to go to Winnipeg, you have the power to say that. It shouldn't be used to dictate where you go next. I mean, that's what free agency is for. So players can choose where they go. And that's kind of my concern. It's will free
mic unplugged? Johnny's mic cut out for just a sec there.
Yep,
we think he's back. He's back.
It's not. Let me just plug it in again one more time.
It's the Mac. It's the Mac mic. We've all had this problem before. Technical difficulties. It hits all of us. But yeah, I agree. I mean, it's a tough situation, and I wonder too, just on the basis of what you were touching on there. He's back. The mic's back. We're in rock and roll mode here.
Sorry about that.
Dude, all good. It happens to the best of us. If only Clarkey were here, he could tell you about his technical difficulty issues on this show. I wonder though, hockey fans have been well scarred by labor stoppages more so than any other of the pro sports leagues. Do you foresee this potentially becoming a big time issue when the CBA needs to get renegotiated here, where owners are going to fight to abolish these and the players are going to say, no, we're not doing that?
Well, I do think players should have trade protection. But again, I think it should be used as protection, not as I don't want to be here anymore, so you have to send me there. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's not how it should work. So I do think, let's say a player wants out and they have a full no move clause. Maybe there's a list of 10 or 12 teams that they can go to, not 3 or 4, you know? Like having just a little bit more open-mindedness, I think to, and again, like sometimes you hear from the players, like, why should they help out the GM if the GM doesn't do their job? Like, you know what I mean? Like it goes both ways. Any former player you talk to, and including me, like I think players should have power. I think players shouldn't just be told to pack their bags and leave. Like if you earn that trade protection, you should be able to use it. I just don't like that players are now able to use it to basically be a free agent and make it a transfer portal. Like that's my whole argument, right? It's not protection, it's a weapon. Like that's the opposite of what it was instilled to do. If that makes sense.
It does make sense completely, and it's a little incongruent the way it's being utilized, especially with the advent of the agents' involvement too here. I think that this could be a real sticky subject when the CBA gets renegotiated potentially, and I don't know if it's a thing where they limit the amount of teams that you can have on a no trade list, or if they limit the amount of no moves that teams can give out in general. I'm not sure. It'll be interesting to see where it shakes out. Speaking of interesting, boy, oh boy, a couple weeks ago, the news breaks that Edmonton is sniffing around Mike Babcock, and it's made official today. We're recording this on Tuesday, June 23rd, just a couple hours ago. Mike Babcock met the Edmonton media, and it was interesting to say the least. There were a lot of questions levied at this guy for very good reason. Laz, when you first heard the news up until where we are now, what have you thought of this entire process? Is Mike Babcock the right guy for the Oilers? Should they have hired this guy?
So I think I've grown, and I know that people hate him. He is not well liked. He has a horrible reputation. He has very bad qualities. Like, I understand all of that. After listening to the press conference today, I know he didn't take accountability and all these things. He didn't really say the right things, to be honest. But I understand where the Edmonton Oilers are at. And I do somewhat appreciate that they're willing to go this off the board if they feel it's their best chance at winning, right? Like, I think we compliment Vegas, we compliment Florida, and all these organizations that do whatever it takes to win. If this is what the Oilers feel is doing whatever it takes to win, and they win, credit to them. If they don't do well and it blows up in their face, we are going to all laugh at them for doing this. I think that's just how it works, right? It's a huge risk that they're going for a guy who hasn't coached an NHL game in however many years. But the one thing you can't question about this guy is his hockey knowledge and his approach to the game, his approach to people and relationships. I think we can all question and we can all criticize and we can all say, what the hell is wrong with him? But if Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and Zach Hyman feel that he's the guy that can get everyone to buy in, good luck. That's all I could really say. Like, good luck. But again, like, I think my thing too, we've now, since the Olympics, since this postseason, we've kind of looked at Connor McDavid and we've asked, like, is he a part of the reason why they're losing? And I think Mike Babcock kind of said that a little bit, right? Like, he spoke to those three guys and said, we have guys, I forgot the exact quote. I think it was like something about Steve Yzerman in Detroit. Like, you've had guys that have put up so many points, but when they stop putting up the points and commit to doing other things, that's when they get the cups, so there's got to be something. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. The big question around that, is the juice worth the squeeze here with this guy? And we're gonna find out. And
that's a good
I really think if this goes sideways, like, I don't know if Stan Bowman's going to have, a good time trying to find another job after this, because I think people are pretty fed up with what he's been up to. So it'll be interesting. Okay, we referenced the draft earlier. You're going to be flying to Buffalo on Wednesday. You're going to be doing a bunch of great content, as you always do, for the NHL and NHL Network. How exciting is this to be able to go to Buffalo and take in one of the premier events for the NHL?
Yeah, it's awesome. Luckily for me, I'm actually hosting a show with Kate Pedersen and Matt Schaefer Friday night, which would be really cool. So the guys will get picked. They'll come backstage. We'll talk to them. I think we're like the last pod in the media car wash. So they'll know that their obligations are done when they talk to us. And it's always so cool. Like for me, whenever I have a chance to talk to like an 18-year-old kid who just achieved his dream of being drafted in the NHL, like there's no bad question I could ask, right? Like they're all just so happy. Makes my job so much easier, which is amazing. So it's really cool for me to be able to help share the stories of these, young kids who are living out their lifetime dream. And, I don't take a day of that for granted.
Absolutely. Well, you're doing a great job. Like I said, brother,
Thanks,
everybody
Ryan.
should follow Laz on social media and pay attention to what you're up to at the draft, and sitting there with Matt Schaefer, a good OHL product, good OHL boy. And, my Guelph Storm, they're hosting the Memorial Cup this year. We're going to have to get you up here. We're going to have to get you north of the border to take some Memorial Cup hockey in.
I haven't been to a Mem Cup. I want the USHL to get a team in the Mem Cup, and then we're cooking. That's what I would love. I want that to be a day in hockey someday.
I think that's a possibility. It could happen, but the invite's open. We'll figure out a way. We got to get you up here taking a game at the Sleeman Center. Before we let you go, you're a busy guy. We appreciate this, Laz. Man, oh man, New York, you're a diehard New Yorker. Yeah. And I know that this made you and everybody in the city real happy. So I got to ask you, look at this, 2 million fans attending the Knicks parade. You're in there somewhere. Where does this win rank in New York sports lore? You're not in there. I thought you went to the parade, brother.
I couldn't get closer than 3 blocks away. It was impossible. I got there at 8 a.m. and started at 10 a.m. and I couldn't get within 3 blocks. It was insane.
Unbelievable. Well, you got to tell me, man, what's the vibe like? Like, where does this rank in New York sports lore? First title since 73.
I mean, I really only root for the Knicks and the Rangers. So for me, this is number one, obviously. Like I'm not like I'll bandwagon the Giants or Jets if they're ever good, and the Yankees and Mets when they're good. But for me, this is number one. And I think the one thing about the Knicks in New York, and you can talk about the Brooklyn Nets or whatever, but like the Knicks are New York's team, right? Like every other sport, we have 2 teams. We have Islanders, Rangers. We have Jets, Giants. We have we have Mets, Yankees. Like the Knicks are one. Like I don't think Brooklyn has enough like history over the years where people were born Brooklyn Nets fans, and maybe that's just me being ignorant, but that's just like kind of what I grew up in. So, me, my 30-year-old high school buddies, we all woke up on Thursday morning, met downtown at 8 a.m., and we were just like as happy as could be. And that continued on throughout the day. I think I was blackout drunk by like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Like it was just, it's great when a big city gets together for a celebration. Like that's rare in today's world, right? Like usually it's rallying around something tragic that's happened, and, just hugging strangers, hugging cops. I made the joke that like homeless people were giving me money. Like that's just the kind of day it was in New York City. It was awesome.
Magical stuff, brother. Yeah. Well, enjoy it throughout the summer. Enjoy the draft. We'll be watching. You know that. Please follow Jonny at JLazzy23. He makes great stuff. If you're an NHL fan, you're missing out if you're not following our buddy Laz. Thanks so much for doing this, brother. Enjoy the draft.
Thanks, Ryan. Always love popping on with you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, buddy. All right, we'll be back, and we'll be chatting with Todd Crocker, the voice of the Calder Cup champion Toronto Marlies, with Clarkey next here on Instigate. Back to Instigating with Clarkey and Drury. Thanks to our buddy Jonny Lazarus for joining me in the first segment from NHL Network. He will be covering the NHL draft, and we'll dig into that a little more later. Clarkey, look, I know
Toronto has a hockey championship we're going to talk about now.
Look, I didn't want to offend you, but you brought it up, okay? There's a team in Toronto that's not cursed. They are able to win championships. They are able to get it done. And for the second time, the Toronto Marlies are Calder Cup champions, and we're very pleased to be joined by the voice of the Toronto Marlies, our good buddy, Todd Crocker. Croc, how you doing, brother? It's exciting times down there at Coca-Cola Coliseum.
It never gets old when you win a championship. I've been lucky enough to been a part of calling 5 Calder Cups, and couple in Hamilton, and then an intermediary one with Texas and St. John's, and then these past 2 with the Marlies. And it's just been It's been a real pleasure. Everyone has its own story. Everyone seems to have its own feel to it. And when the champion finally reveals itself, it is never a moment there where you absolutely expect it to happen. You're always kind of expecting more. And in this series, I really was expecting more. I think that Chicago team was as evenly matched with the Marlies as any team that I've seen in a Calder Cup final.
Let's go back a little bit though, because this team in the regular season didn't, to me, look like a championship team. Where did it all change? Like, when did things start clicking, and you thought, this team is better than everyone thinks, or playing better?
Well, I always kind of thought it was better than what they were. So there were lots of times in the season where they didn't, perform as I thought they would, and it was a little confounding actually, because they had talent, they had good veteran presence, they had great leadership, and so lots of times in the season it was more of a head scratching moment where it was like I think they're kind of wasting a moment here in time with so many good players and so many good opportunities, and then suddenly it kind of gets put together there at the end of the season. It's not that they had a run at the end of the season or anything. It's just that you could kind of start to feel that there was a next level of seriousness that was being put to it. Suddenly the kidding around and the kind of like, hey, we're just fooling about doing things on a regular basis kind of got put away. And there was a real seriousness from some of the guys out there that they felt that either this was a great statement to make in their own careers, or this was a chance that for some of these leaders at the end of their careers to do something spectacular that they had not previously done as a professional. And so you couple that with a bunch of guys who, almost don't know better, who are fresh out of junior or fresh to the league a couple of years. And they're just like, this is going to matter. And it does matter. So, once they all kind of jumped in, they got great goaltending, great defense. I think a lot of people are kind of jumping on board here with great goaltending. It was absolutely no question. But also the difference between that early team that had many nights in November, December, had 6 defensemen and a goaltender that didn't add up to 100 professional games. And when you have that in the American League, you aren't going to win on many nights. And so they went through a good couple of months there where they didn't have those guys. And when they finally got all those guys back together, the Matt Benning, Dakota Mermis, Henry Thrun, Marshall Rafai, you're talking about guys that have been in the league and aren't making mistakes at this point in the year. And I think that really changed and gave the Marlies great goaltending and great defense.
So let's dive into the goaltending if we can. From outside, who I obviously, well, not obviously, but I wasn't an active participant watching Marley games this year. But Hildeby's up with the Leafs, and then Hildeby's down, and Hildeby's with the Marlies come playoff time. But all of a sudden, there's this Akhtyamov who jumps in and was the star of the finals for sure, the MVP. Did you see this coming before the playoffs started?
Well, I didn't see him running away with the job postseason, but I certainly saw him be a great goaltender throughout the season. And there were lots of games throughout the season that he was able to give them a chance to win. And on a nightly basis, he was that guy. The other thing is, and I call him the Dolly, the goalie llama, and it was just like, he's just such a terrific guy, smile on his face all the time, comes to play and he's an intense competitor, but he's also this guy who's just an incredible person to be around and on a daily basis, just, one of those guys that you look forward to seeing. So what happens here isn't necessarily a choice one way or another, that it would be Hildeby or Akhtyamov. It was just, as far as John Gruden was concerned, I think he was just going to try Akhtyamov until it didn't work, and then he was going to go to Hildeby. And in the first round, he did just that, and Hildeby ended up winning that round in the third game against Rochester, and then went back to Akhtyamov because he thought, okay, that's great. We'll give him a chance here to redeem himself. and he never came out again. And so I think I don't think this was he's better than Hildeby situation. I think it was a situation where he got the ball and he never gave it up. And that's not great if you're Dennis Hildeby. I'm sure he would have liked to have played. And in fact, I'm 100% sure that's the case. But I also know that, he's also thinking to himself, you can't go away from this guy. He's winning games.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that Leaf fans are hoping maybe that there's potential for, future stardom there with the way he played. Obviously, MVP of the playoffs. And Crocky kind of talked about the inconsistency through the regular season, little blips of up and down play. And then when the playoffs came around, this team, like they flipped a switch, that old proverbial saying, but it's really true the way that they ratcheted up the way that they played. And obviously the roster becoming more solid with young guys that were stuck in there as part of the team from the get-go of the playoffs. And we'll touch on some of those young guys for sure. But what was it about the way that this team came together and played that allowed them to have a pretty dominant run here? Like you said that you thought Chicago would give them a bit of a stiffer test. The Marlies just didn't allow that to happen. They went up 3-0. Chicago gets one back. They closed it out in 5. Wilkes-Barre gave them a little bit of a push, but I mean, it certainly never looked like the Marlies were in danger of losing that series by any means. What allowed them to put it all together and have a run like this after that regular season where, Clarkey and I and other people were going, I don't know.
7 of 9 one-goal games went in their favor. So including the final, all 5 of them, except the first one, there was an empty net goal there. So really all 5 of them one-goal games. So I think what happens is they've got a veteran core here, Vinny Lettieri, Logan Shaw is the captain. These are guys that Matt Benning, Dakota Mermis, Michael Pezzetta, these are all guys that wanted to win and have very low panic level. And I think that's essential in a playoff. I think if you can get guys out there on a nightly basis that understand that when you go down 2 bagel, you're like, okay, we can make that up. You don't start trying to throw on the superhero cape and decide that you're going to do it on your own. And then you've got guys, and I think this is a little bit what happened as well. You get guys that are infusion of energy and they bring a lot of lightness to it, but they also bring intensity. A guy like Landon Sim, who was the captain of the London Knights there when they won the Memorial Cup and OHL championship. And Easton Cowan, and I know you guys want to talk about him as well. And, not to be underestimated here or kind of put over here, he was important to this team. 13 seconds left against Cleveland. He's able to score a goal to send them to the conference final. And, it's a team effort goal. He's in the right spot at the right time. Good players usually are. And so I think when you go back and you look at the last, 30, certainly in my career, I look back over the 26 years I've covered the American Hockey League, and I can say that I look back on that and I say most of the winners look similar to this, and they all have a passion to keep playing and keep showing up the next day. Like they just don't want to go home. They want to keep coming in, keep playing hockey. And it's not just the hockey, it's the guys they're hanging around with. Lots of teams that don't win have that too. But these guys wanted to come back every day. Just keep playing hockey. Just be around their teammates. Just be with this team. And, they get to the end of this and nobody wants to go home here at the moment. They want to celebrate as long as they can. But, eventually they'll all head back to wherever they're going to head back to. They'll all get into their training of next year. They'll take a couple of weeks off. But this team came together with the right amount of talent, with the right amount of no panic, and the right amount of infusion of positive energy.
I think Leaf Nation and Clarkey in particular would want to know a little bit about some of those young guys that, the Leafs have in the pipeline. I mean, people have talked an awful lot, lots of different pundits about how empty this pipeline is. Tell us a little bit more about what guys like Easton Cowan and Ben Danford and Will Villeneuve, what some of these young guys, Landon Sim even getting in there, like what were these guys able to do in terms of helping this team get over this hump and win a second Calder Cup championship for the Marlies?
What I never understood is when people say, oh well, the pipeline, they're probably looking about 3 or 4 guys, and they're saying, well, that guy can't come in and play right away, or that guy can't come in and play right away, and what they don't look at is the entire operation. Look, not everybody's going to be a Leaf that plays on the Marlies that ends up playing in the National Hockey League. It's just not going to happen, and so. Sometimes you have to see value in those players in other organizations, and they have to see the value in what they're going to do. So to me, I see a guy like Easton Cowan. The last guy I saw that plainly, maybe not the last guy, but certainly one of the guys I saw that plainly didn't belong in the American Hockey League was William Nylander. He was here for 2 half seasons, got into the playoffs. He was a talent that was still maybe one of the best talents I've ever seen in this league, if not the best talent. And Easton Cowan just has an ability to move the puck, find things, has vision, and is a tougher player than maybe I had given him credit for. He is a competitor. So that's a guy that I think he's a known quantity for the Leaf fans. I think they've seen a lot of him play. I think they've enjoyed how he's played in the National Hockey League. But I think this run, it's not confidence. It's playing in intense moments where everything matters. And that can only help you going forward. When you go on a deep run in the playoffs, it's different than anything else that's out there. There is nothing like it. And the more people that you can have that are familiar with that, Landon Sim is another one of those guys. Is Landon Sim ready to go tomorrow to the National Hockey League? No, but he's a guy that plays with such intensity that even if he is teaching your young prospects, if you want to call them that, these young guys, that it's not just show up and you're the man and you do all the skillful things that you need to do. You need to be more than that. And that's why the Marlies experience is so incredibly important to a Jacob Quillen, to a Luke Haynes. These guys just found out that this is how much it takes to go this deep into the playoffs, how much you have to give of yourself, how much you have to invest emotionally, how much you have to invest in your environment. Like your friends right now are all out at the lake. They're all having fun. Everybody else around you is out. Even the people you have played hockey with, they are out and they're done and they're doing something else. And it's hard to stay focused in that situation. And until you do it, it's very hard to pass that information along. It's not the kind of thing that you just go, hey, here you go. There's information for you. You should know how hard it is. Until you do it, it's incredibly difficult. And so that's why the value of that gets passed along to a guy like William Villeneuve, who, hadn't played many playoff games for the Toronto Marlies over his time here, but then finally gets into this situation and leads the league in defensemen in scoring. Easton Cowan led rookies in scoring in the playoffs. William Villeneuve broke a record that was held by Connor Carrick from 2016 for not only assists, but points by a defenseman in the playoffs. And these are guys that can contribute. And the more that they know about how much emotional information you have to hand over in order to win, to get that far, it's really hard to pass that along just by saying, boy, you got to dig deep.
Tell me a little bit about Michael Pezzetta. Here's a guy who, whenever it seems like the Leafs need a little rumble on a night, they call him up and we see him fight a few times and then he disappears again. Is that his role? Will it ever change? Does he have the ability to learn and to grow still as a player?
Well, the one thing I have noticed about Michael Pezzetta this year, more than I have, and he led the league in penalty minutes in the postseason. And was, if they played, I think, another 5 games, he might actually set the record. But he certainly has a Marlies record. I would say about him in the beginning when he was with Laval, I thought this guy's such a wild card. He's just so hard to predict on when something's going to set him off. And when something does set him off, I always thought, that's not the moment. That's not the now. And yet, throughout this entire playoff and the time he's been with the Marlies, he knows his now. He knows when, he knows what, and he knows how to kind of make that all happen too. I think he's a pretty valuable piece of the puzzle when it comes to, is he the guy that just goes up and back in those moments? Maybe. But what I do know is he is a mature version of the guy he was, and that means not only picking your moments, but understanding how much work actually goes into it. It's not just showing up and irritating guys. It's figuring out what irritates guys before you even step out onto the ice. And I think Michael Pezzetta has done that. And I think he had some really poignant words for a guy like Landon Sim, who I think every game he got in with the Marlies this year, he got in a fight. And I think at one point he said to him, hey, you don't have to fight these guys, although the Marlies had some really knockdown drag-em-outs there at the end of a couple of games this postseason. I would say that, what he passed along there is what he also learned himself. He knows now when and how to engage and when not to, and that's probably more important. And I think he's one of those people that, in the NHL, he can be that player. Plus, I also think he's got a fair bit of hockey sense about him. I think he's a pretty smart player, and that in itself speaks volumes. They had an identity line there with Mark Johnstone, Reese Johnson, and Landon Sim was in there, and Michael Pezzetta in there, and they not only played hard and in the other zone, but they played smart, and you don't always get that, especially in the American League.
Yeah, you certainly don't. And I think Pezzetta is a guy that people are interested in too, because like Clarkey said, he did get into some games with the Leafs. He didn't play that much, and people are starting to maybe look at this playoff run and go, I think maybe there's a little more there where he could maybe be a really decent contributor on an energy line, like a fourth line in the NHL. I don't think that that's out of the question. He's a pretty good skater too. Like, it's not like the guy can't move out there, Croc. Like, he's a good skater.
Oh, he is a good skater and works on it. And that's the one thing I see on a daily basis with the Marlies, which is fantastic. It's a great position to be in the organization, is to be this guy who shows up every day at a Marlies practice and gets to know the guys and goes on the road with them and sees how much they dedicate to the craft of hockey and working with the development team in Toronto, and then there's another side to this too, that a guy like Michael Pezzetta, the Marlies by design, I think, play a lot of different teams in the league every year, maybe more so than anybody. They went to California for a couple of years ago. They always make sure to play over in the Central Conference, and so they played Iowa this year, Chicago, and places like that. And for a guy like Michael Pezzetta, that gives him some room to understand all the different styles that he's got to come up against, and also understand this is how much harder he's got to work to be a great skater. He's already a really good skater, obviously, in National Hockey League. He's already a good skater, compared to the rest of the world. But he continues to work on it. And lots of times I think guys get there and they kind of say, well, I'm here. I'm good. It's all good. But he's not that guy. He's constantly adding to his hockey knowledge, constantly adding to his toolbox. And, look, you don't have forever to do it. And so you might as well keep adding as long as they let you add.
You're absolutely right. And I'm curious too, Croc, you've seen a lot in your time covering this league. You've seen both of these Marlies championships. So when you look at this picture and you reflect back on the first one that you got to see, and I love too that they had Rodion Amirov's jersey in there too, who is sorely missed, and that was really classy by the players to have that prominently displayed after all their wins. When you look at this picture, tell me what the difference is, if there is any, between this championship team and the first Marlies championship.
Well, the first Marlies team, there was at no point in that year did I think they weren't winning the Calder Cup. They won the league title that year, the AHL equivalent of the President's Trophy, and then they went through the playoffs. They rattled off 10 straight wins in the playoffs. They swept 2 teams out of the playoffs in the division final and the conference final. It did go to 7 games in the final, but I never ever felt like they were going to lose that final. That's kind of a weird thing to say. They went 7, and I would feel that way. But I feel that they lost a couple of games in that final, and Texas won their other game in that final. So again, the Marlies didn't play their best in that. When they played their best that year, unstoppable team. This team was not that team. This team had to get out shovels and picks and whatever other tool that they could invent and try and gut out a win every single night. There didn't seem to be too many nights that I can think back on. A couple of shutouts, but one of them was 1-0. And I just really think there was probably 2 nights that I thought, oh wow, they really dominated that team. That's pretty good. But I never ever thought every night was a question mark. Every night was, what's going to happen here? These guys are up against it. What will they answer back to? And they did. Where I never felt that with the other team. It was just, even when it was 1-0, I think back to the second game against Syracuse. I think it went to double overtime. Freddie Gauthier ended up getting the game-winning goal, and I just thought, yeah, this team, that team's not coming back on the Marlies, and they didn't. But the one thing I will say is, here's a big difference. The veterans on that team, Colin Greening, he'd won before. Vincent Loverde, he'd won before. Chris Mueller, he'd won before. Ben Smith, he had won before. All these guys had been down the road long enough to make the other guys understand how hard it was going to be to get that far down the road. And this Marlies team didn't have any of those guys. They had guys that had won in junior, but they had not had anybody that had played deep into June. And that's a real testament to the knowledge that they were accruing along the way, and that they were putting their arms around and giving a big hug to. So yeah, those two teams, similarities, veterans, young guys. Trevor Moore was on that team back in 2018, and I think of what that did for him and his career, and I think it was absolutely massive for him to do that. And I just think that they had similarities in makeup, but very different teams as far as their personality.
Yeah, absolutely. A well-deserved championship for sure. The second AHL Calder Cup for the Toronto Marlies, and we were very pleased to have the man who saw all of it, the voice of the Toronto Marlies, Mr. Todd Crocker. Croc, thanks so much for doing this, brother. It's been a pleasure.
Anytime, as always.
And I just want to say it's been very enjoyable watching you all year long, and whoever hired you is a genius.
I like to think so. The guy, I forget his name now, but
wasn't it like just a fill-in? You were just going to do 1 year, right?
1 year. You know it, Clarkey. I remember when you called me and you said, "Hey, we just need a guy for just a year," and I thought, I don't know. I just don't know.
He did. It's exactly his reaction. But you know what? Saturday's Heroes was the learning ground.
Right? The catalyst for this could never have predicted it.
God, I had fun on that show.
It's one of those things, and I don't know, throw on too off topic here, but Leafs TV to me was just a brilliant piece of television. I think it could have done a lot more, but one of my favorite moments when I look back, when you called me to do Saturday's Heroes, I was at a point there where I wouldn't say I was in love with hockey at that point. Mm-hmm. And then I got to do that show, and it just changed everything for me. I was able to see it through the eyes of kids who got a chance to play on then the Air Canada Center ice on Saturday mornings and before the big games, or Saturday afternoons, I guess, but before big games, and they got to see heroes walking by, and it was just like to see it through their eyes was magical. It was the best thing for me at that point to be a part of, and reignited everything. And from that moment on, it was just like, how can I ever fall out of love with this game again?
That is neat to hear. And Ryan, you should have seen this guy walking in like a movie star with a scarf around his neck. It was like a knitted scarf. He walked in.
It's a good-looking guy.
Like a little inside
from the Jenna Clark collection.
That's right.
Not bad.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Buddy.
Yeah.
Well,
still looking for that scarf.
I'd say it worked out pretty good for you, Croc, and we're glad you stuck with it. Congratulations on another great call and another great moment for you and the Marlies, and we always appreciate it, brother. Have a great summer.
I appreciate you guys. Thanks.
There he is, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Todd Crocker, the voice of your Calder Cup champion, Toronto Marlies. Yeah, Clarkey, it's awesome stuff, man. Like, some of these young guys that the Leafs do have in the system got a pretty interesting look at, being able to go after a championship, and hopefully they'll be able to bring that with them to training camp and potentially really long NHL careers. You never know.
As the glass half full kind of guy, as you know, I am always hoping.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Since the season ended for the Maple Leafs, which was a obviously terrible season, things have been getting so much better in my mind. That 12 ping pong ball came up. The Darren Radish deal. Like, we're going to get Gavin McKenna. Like, Marlies win a championship. The offseason has been championship style. Now they just got to carry it on next year. We'll see what happens. New coach as well. So there you go.
Yeah, like we'll see. It's been an interesting offseason as well. We're
going on.
We're recording this segment of the show. I chatted with our buddy Jonny Lazarus of NHL Network on Tuesday afternoon. We're finishing up the show here on Thursday evening, and right after I got off the horn with our buddy Laz, who again, follow him, JLazzy23. He's going to be in Buffalo doing a bunch of content for NHL Network. He's actually going to be doing a panel as well featuring one Matthew Schaefer. Okay, so that's pretty exciting stuff. Right after I get off the horn with Laz, my Washington Capitals decide to make a big blockbuster move, and then they made another one, and there could be another one on the way too. They've been busy. Buffalo's been busy. Chicago flipped number 4 to Buffalo, and now there's rumors Buffalo's shopping that to try and improve. It's been interesting. Just about an hour before we got on here, Valerie Nikushkin getting moved from our former producer Adam's Colorado Avalanche. They send him to Columbus, so there's Colorado trying to free up some space. Like, it's gonna be, Noodles on Overdrive is always going, there's going to be fireworks. There already has been, and there has been.
I agree.
This could be a nuts draft, bro.
I agree. It's like, it reminds me of the days I used to cover the draft, and it was exciting. There was trade. We have a trade to announce, and like, we just want to hear that again, and hopefully it doesn't say Andrew Raycroft.
You're gonna want to hear this.
Yeah, you're gonna want to hear this one.
New Jersey, dude. That's an all-time.
Yeah, but like, I'm excited. We're 24 hours away from the draft pretty much right now. I'm excited.
Stuff.
It seems like the Leafs have made their decision. I cannot see it not being McKenna. But after that, it's wide open. San Jose with pick number 2. They seem like they're trying to shop it. Boy, oh boy, it's going to be exciting. The Leafs might end up with 1 and 2. We'll see.
Yeah, like, I don't know how they'll pull that off, but yeah, San Jose
would have
active.
to be involved.
Well, and plus, I mean, for San Jose, it'll be interesting. Like, they've got 2, and rumors are Mike Greer, their general manager, is interested in shopping that potentially. I'm sure it would be to acquire a defenseman, because they certainly need some. Calgary, has some pick capital. St. Louis all of a sudden has a bunch of pick capital. Like, there's some teams that could, really shake up the landscape of the NHL with some of this pick capital that they have. Ottawa's got some pick capital to move
let's
around.
dive into that. Let's dive into Brady Tkachuk.
Yeah, we talked about it with Lazzy, man. Like
What did you think? I want to hear your opinion on these guys. Just saying that's it. I want to. Well, yeah, I mean, obviously he didn't say I'm out. He said I'm not re-signing here in 2 years. So look at trading me now, and guess where he goes with his brother? Like, come on.
Yeah, and Laz kind of talked about that in the first segment, just these guys kind of weaponizing the no move clause as leverage in a way that it wasn't really meant to be used. Like the spirit of it was like, hey, I want this so that the team can't just deal me anywhere, not so I can turn around and go, here's one team that you can send me to, and I want out right now.
Yeah.
I really am fearful, and I like to describe myself, Clarkey, as an optimistic pessimist. Okay. And I really don't want this to happen.
I know where you're going with it.
Tell me where
it's do the same thing.
Tell me. No. That's not where I'm going.
Okay. Sorry.
You think I'm going to boil this down to another player that wears blue and white. No, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
He could do that, but that's not what I'm saying here. I'm genuinely concerned that the issue of no move clauses is going to cause another lockout. That's immediately what this makes me think of. Like, it's never the subject of no move clauses has never been noisier. At least I haven't noticed it being as noisy than it has been this year. And we're still waiting to see what Dylan Larkin does, or rather what Steve Yzerman is allowed to do with Dylan Larkin because of the barrel that he's holding Stevie Y over. Like, I'm really nervous that the no move clause thing is going to become a really contentious issue. This was sent to me in my hockey pool keeper league, and this is really crazy when you look at it. No trades and no move clauses across the 4 major sports. The NFL has 8. Now, the NFL's contracts are like, they can just cut guys, and there's no guaranteed contracts. But the NFL has 8. The NBA has 2. MLB has 35 structured in no move clauses. The NHL has 245. I look at that and I'm like, the second I saw that image, I was like, this is going to cause another lockout. That's what it makes me think, dude. Like, I don't know what your thoughts are on it. Please share.
I don't know. I never thought that. A lot of other things
nervous.
I think I could, but I don't know. I just think the players get the leverage when the teams hand these out. You cannot blame the player to do it. And quite frankly, if Mitch Marner had to come to the Leafs 2 years before and said, I'm not re-signing, like a stand-up gentleman, then things would have been different. Except he went to Las Vegas in December, and the year he was leaving, and his parents went, and they bought a house, and they did all this stuff, and
yeah, they did this stuff. Nice save there. But you're talking out of both sides of your mouth a little bit, Clarkey, right? Because you're saying right. Well, the teams.
I agree.
Because it's the player's right to get them, and then it's also the player's right to ride them out and do the opposite of what Brady did and say, trade me to one place.
Yep.
So
he's going to – I get it, but I just obviously wish – now, Mitch Marner, they could have traded at that point, but Brendan Shanahan did not want – that no trade clause hadn't kicked in.
They walked a new general manager in there.
Yeah.
And it was 3 weeks away from it kicking in.
Yeah. But that's the experts, the insiders say that's why they fired Dubas, because he had he butted head with Shanny on a few things, one of which being
I'm sure he did
trading Mitch Marner, because it certainly sounded like he was going to trade Mitch Marner. He probably knew that this guy's leaving. Paul Marner is going to go with Mitch, and that's that. So anyway, but you're right. Can it happen again with other certain players? Absolutely. we'll have to wait and see.
And I think it will, as long as these things are available, and then guys maybe get dissatisfied with a situation. You know, there's all this talk now around Zach Werenski. Like, he's 2 years out from his deal expiring. Not a lot of success over there in Columbus. He has been fantastic. Like, he's one of the best defensemen in the league.
And all this Team USA guy thing as well. It's like they all have a meeting over there. Like,
that's the other side of this, you know, where people were saying, I can't believe Ottawa didn't get a player, and there's rumors, you know, that Florida,
but they did in the long run because they traded the pick, got a player.
Yep, yeah, and they bring Eklund in, and there's all this talk about, you know, Hellebuck now in Florida sniffing around him, but they're not interested in giving up Anton Lundell and whatever. Honestly, like, to get the 3 first-rounders and a second-rounder, like, I think that the reason that ended up happening was because Florida is similar to the Vegas and Marner situation. I think that there was a bit of a sniff of tampering, and Florida was basically like, or Ottawa rather said, look, like, we're going to lodge a complaint unless you give us like the 3rd first-rounder. That's what the rumors are. I don't know. But you bring up, you know, that U.S. Olympic team, and maybe some conversations were had that maybe weren't kosher necessarily. I don't know. Because we're not in those rooms, but it looks awful weird.
It does. Know? Yeah. And like tampering. Know, can let me ask you a question. Let's just say Matthews and Werenski were buddies. Can Matthews call him and say, hey, what do you think about coming to Toronto? Is that allowed?
I genuinely don't know.
I don't either.
I don't know what the rules are.
Yeah. Like, is that tampering? Sure. I don't know, because I can guarantee you,
feel like it is.
Matthew and Brady had that conversation. You know, like, there's no difference.
I'm sure,
like,
yes,
they're brothers, but there's no way to prove that stuff.
I'm sure Keith was involved in some way too, right?
To me, that's okay. He's not involved with a team.
No, I know, but there's
like dad can be involved. Just ask Paul Marner.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that. Yeah, it's interesting. And what a week for Keith. Like, you know, Walt gets into the Hall of Fame finally, and his sons are going to play together for the next number of years. It's interesting stuff for him. Yeah. Do you want to touch on that quickly too? You know, this year's Hall of Fame class. I mean, Patrice Bergeron and Carey Price, absolute slam dunks. Walt, kind of a guy that, you know, like I thought it was a great class. You know, Berkey getting in. Like, we're gonna have to get him on the show. Like, Berkey's in there. I'll send him a note. Which is, and like people are going like, Brian Burke. What's Brian Burke? Brian Burke deserves to be in the Hockey Hall of Fame. Like, when you look at the impact on what he's had in terms of the NHL across a number of different facets, player agent, director of player safety back in the day. It wasn't called that back then, but he was the director of like discipline. Essentially, he was the guy in charge of handing out suspensions, long general manager and executive career, won a cup with Anaheim in 2007. Like, Berkey's, like, people were saying to me, I can't believe Berkey got him. Like, what do you mean? Like, I think there are people that are like, he only general managered for Toronto, and they're like, how come he's in? I'm like, do you know what he did? Like, I thought it was great that he got in for sure. Everybody deserving, you know, to get in. Next year will be interesting.
Who else got in this year? Remind me.
Well, hold on. Let me look that up, because it was Bergeron. It was Price.
Who was the goalie?
Berkey. Yeah, well, Price got in.
No, but was there another goalie or no? No? Okay.
Hold on.
I just think Cujo deserves to be in there.
Well, next year could be a year where he gets in, because the first year eligible players don't like Pecorine. Pecorine got in.
Yeah, Cujo's better than Pecorine. I'm sorry. I'm not saying Pecorine isn't a good goalie. Don't get me wrong, but Cujo.
I think that they played in two different eras.
I know, and that's why it's hard to compare. But
I just think
you deserve to get in ahead of him if you're going to put a goalie in.
I understand the way you feel about that. What I'll say is, if Rene's in, see, I hate doing this because like I don't want to sound like I'm disparaging guys, and I'm not going to bring up names of guys that are in that I kind of raised my eyebrow at. But I will. No, I don't think it's.
They're in the Hall of Fame. You can talk about them.
No, I know. You could probably guess some guys that have gotten in where I kind of went, okay. But if Rene can get in, and I'm not saying this disparagingly to him, I certainly don't understand how Cujo can't. And next year might be a good year for him to get in because the eligible class for 2027, I mean, you got a guy like Henrik Zetterberg, who I think will get in. My guy Nick Backstrom will be eligible. He will probably get in. And then you're looking at some other guys where you're kind of like, I don't know. So Cujo, and there's a lot of noise around him again this year when Rene got announced. Cindy Curley, of course, legendary American female player. She was the captain of that team for a long, long time and was one of the people that was really key in getting some early, well-deserved attention to women's hockey. Cindy Curley getting in, of course. And then Berkey. And, I mean, Patrice Bergeron and Carey Price, no doubt about it, slam dunk first ballot. That made plenty of sense. Yeah. But yeah, it'll be interesting. Cujo continues to be, a guy that I don't know. I think that with other guys that have gotten in, it's going to get harder as years continue to go by to keep him out. He's 8th all time in wins. His numbers are really good. Yeah, he never won any individual awards, and I don't think anybody would have said that at any point in his career he was the best goalie in the league, but he was certainly a top 10 and a couple years top 5 goaltender. That 99 season with he was really, really good. No, he wasn't Dominic Hasek and he wasn't Martin Brodeur and Patrick. Yeah, obviously, but it's going to be harder and harder to keep a guy like that out. I don't know, man. I kind of agree. I think he should be in at this point. Because there's guys that have gotten in where I kind of am like, well, all right, I guess. I don't know. There's guys that come up every year. Here? A couple minutes here. Is there something you'd like to address?
Before
a big night for yourself?
We forgot to mention congratulations to our U.S. Open champ, Ian Doig.
Yes, Ian Doig won the U.S. Open pickoff.
And I should have had the graphic ready, and I didn't have it ready.
It's all right. Well, he's not with us. And yes, Doig
and I think
won.
I might have come in second.
No, I did. You came last. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm going to have to look it up. We're going to tweet out the results.
You came last. I already did the math.
But
I was feeling good about Sam Burns. But here's the thing with Doigie's team. If Sam Burns had won for me and got me the 3 bonus strokes, I still would have lost by 3 strokes to Doigie. Doigie just I had a great top end of my team. Doigie just had a real solid all the way through. And it just, hey, got to tip your cap to him. And I'm still on a cold streak.
You are.
What happened?
This is the longest losing streak of your career in the pools that we've done.
The bottom's falling out,
you haven't really, it has. And
not been good.
Boy, oh boy, I don't know when you're going to pull out of this, but we'll see.
Well, I say this, I win with grace and I lose with grace
you
too.
Do.
There's no excuses.
Yeah.
I don't sit here like some people in this pool and go, oh, it's because everybody picked my guys. And I just, I don't do that.
He does that all the time. I know.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, it's so annoying when Doigie does that.
It is.
Oh man. Well, best of luck to your Leafs. It's a big night coming up on Friday. Looking like Gavin McKenna is going to be the newest Maple Leaf toy. How about that? Good for you. I wish you the best. And who knows, maybe some more fireworks from the Leafs and plenty of other teams. It's going to be exciting.
I hope so. I hope it's a fun, lots of trades. That's what we all want.
I think so. And then free agency right around the corner. Going to be interesting stuff. We appreciate our friend Jonny Lazarus. Please follow him, JLazzy23 of NHL Network, and our friend Todd Crocker, the voice of the Calder Cup champion Toronto Marlies. We will be back next week with more Instigating. Keep following us at Instigating Pod, watching us on YouTube, all your favorite podcast apps, and of course, Rogers TV. We will see you next week here on Instigating.